Hello and welcome to the journey with Ammar Sheikh on Canada One TV, where we explore stories of achievers, believers, change makers, and dreamers. Every person's life is a story. Some stories which are told, some untold. Today we are going to unfold one of those, keeping it raw, real, and inspiring. Success doesn't begin with a title. It begins with a vision and the courage to build it from ground up. Today on the journey, we bring you somebody who has a story of passion, precision, and purpose. From stepping onto construction sites at a very young age of 15 to redefining luxury living in Canada, our guest has truly built his journey brick by brick. He is the founder and visionary behind Cyber Homes, a brand that is transforming modern living by blending high quality design, luxury models, and a real world functionality. With over 15 years of experience and a strong foundation in mechanical engineering, he saw a gap in the market and turned into an opportunity to create something exceptional. His work challenges the idea that luxury must come at the cost of practicality, and instead proves that you can have both beautifully. Today he is just not building homes. Instead, he is shaping experiences, redefining spaces, and inspiring a way of living. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Shahroze Arshad. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Shahroze, on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. I know you had to drive from very far. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Anything.
How are you? Thank you so much. I know. How was Eid? How was everything?
Eid was good. Ramadan went well, alhamdulillah. So everything was good. Normally Eid in Canada is not the same, obviously.
Yeah.
But, we go through it. We do the 3 days.
Absolutely.
Typical 3 days of Eid. And alhamdulillah, it was good.
Okay,
was good.
Great to know, Shahroze. So Shahroze, you know the format of the show. It's a contribution from my side to the contributors of the society, of the change makers and the young leaders like yourself.
Absolutely.
So we'll start with your journey. Tell us about yourself, like where you're from, what's your journey like. That's why I did not keep the Pakistan part into the introduction. I wanted you to come up with that.
No, of course. So basically, I was born in Pakistan. I was 2 years old when I came here. So technically, I was brought up here, which is why you listen to the way I speak and everything is very Canadian.
Yeah.
But so my when I came to Canada, my parents we weren't well off at all. We moved here and we lived in a basement. And my parents had to really structure their foundation and build it. They started off as just doing odd jobs, and then eventually my father started a business, which is a driving school business called First Drivers, and he's been just doing that for ever since we came to Canada, right? And seeing that and sort of understanding the struggle of somebody coming to Canada and building their self from scratch, it's sort of, I think, put that inside of me somehow, where it was almost like that entrepreneur energy was basically just in me ever since, just seeing my father build it, right? So, so basically with me, when I was growing up, I was never really intrigued into doing too much. I was always into more like design, and more like I used to want to be a video game designer, and then I wanted to be a car designer, and then so I was very design oriented ever since the beginning. And then eventually, when I was in like early teens, late teens or whatever, like about 15, 16, my uncle sort of told me, hey, maybe we should get into construction, make some money, have some, a little bit of experience in something. And so with that, my journey began into construction. And after about 10 years of that, or 8 years of that, throughout that process, I went to school for engineering and did all of that. But during that time, it was almost like a calling where just general construction wasn't enough, right? I was always very, very artistic in everything that I did. I used to make music. I used to have a jewelry business. I used to do a lot of stuff like that. But my true calling was actually in design and architecture and interior spaces and everything. So I really pushed all my energy into that, and that's where I am today. where now it's like when I design spaces and I design houses and, you know, showcase what sort of luxury living is in Canada, it's basically a culmination of everything that I've gone through in my life, and sort of pushed my ideology as to where I think like somebody that comes from humble, very, very humble beginnings, like low, you know, starting from nothing, can actually become something that you know, is very luxurious, especially in Canada.
Absolutely, no, that's a right way of saying things, putting forward. Like I'm glad you took it from there, and mashallah, what you have achieved so far, it's
Thank you so much. Thank you
so
so much.
as I was just mentioning, you're a man with many things. So I can sense that there's a creative side in you. You have mentioned about designing the jewelry and your passion for music. I'd like to know what happens over there with the creativity when were you not passionate enough to take the music as your career, or you wanted to build homes and that was your passion and you wanted to keep music as your hobby?
So it's very interesting, just because I've always been very into entrepreneurship, right? And so music was a hobby for me, and it was more of something where I could just, you know, showcase some type of artistic aspect of myself, right? So during my university days, when it was just consistent, just, you know, study, you know, do engineering work, it's all math based, you know, it's almost like you're so fixated where being an artistic person, it sort of drains you, right? So during my university years, it was more of like the way that I could present myself as that artistic side and just let it out. And so I think music gave me that route, which I took, and then I sort of like stepped back from at the same time, just because of, you know, other reasons. Music was a way for me to actually get those juices flowing, almost, right? And so from music, I sort of like understood, since it was a hobby, I was like, I don't want to make money from it. I need to find a different avenue. And so I guess the one thing that sort of like got me to jump into jewelry was that, because in the music industry, a lot of people, you know, used to tell me like, hey, you know, jewelry is something that everybody wears and everybody wants. And it sort of correlated with me where it was like, yeah, jewelry actually is something that is, one, artistic, because I was able to sort of learn, you know, how to create the pieces and how to create jewelry and how to create like the elegant designs of each piece that I was making. And so it led me into that. And then, you know, I think over time, with the amount of time I was spending on it, it was just something that I was just like, you know what, this is something that I enjoy doing, but I don't think I could do forever. You know, so it's almost like hopping from one thing to another, as I feel like every entrepreneur goes through it. You know, so hopping from one thing to another, it was almost like, for me, going back to that construction aspect, and then going back into the early days of my construction sort of experience, and then being like, you know what, no, I need to continue in construction. I was already in like continuing construction on the side, but then I made it my forefront as soon as I've sort of realized that.
15 is very young, and now I understand when you were seeing your father and when uncle pushed it. So I'll just stop you over there and ask you, how were you as a child?
As a child, alhamdulillah, I think I was a good kid. You know, no, as a child, I think I was very shy. I was very shy. I didn't know sort of like where I was going, what avenue to take. It was almost just like, listen to your parents; they know the best for you, and just sort of follow their lead. And so I did that, and then I think. You know, while I was doing that, I sort of found my footing when I went to university. I lived alone for 7 years and sort of understood how to adapt to a lot of different situations, how to build myself, how to be my own person. And so I think that gave me the push that I needed to be what I am today, and sort of build my business to what it is today as well.
Great. So what were the earlier challenges you had to face, and which shaped you what you are now?
To be very honest, earlier on, there was actually a lot of challenges, especially in Canada. I remember specifically being somebody of an ethnic background. It puts a lot of pressure on you. Like earlier on, it was, so I went to Catholic school when I was in high school. So when you're in Catholic school and it's, you know, it's earlier on, right? So it's not as open as it is today. It's not as accepting as it is today. There's a lot of, you know, challenges that I had to face through that. And then it sort of shaped my mind into something that was almost like, okay, how do I sort of weave my way through this?
Yeah.
And like, there's a road that you go through and there's always these bumps. And for me, it's always been unfortunately, a racial bump.
Yeah.
And also a age bump. So a lot of people, even now, they sort of look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're very young for what you do," and so you know that it's a difficult challenge to go through because the trust, the trust version of the age isn't there, right? When you're at such a young age, but you have so much experience, people don't trust it. Right, but alhamdulillah, I'm at an age where, I am young and I do have experience, and inshallah, people trust it, and we're good to go.
Absolutely. No, I can definitely see a star in you.
Thank you so much.
A leader in you.
Thank you so much.
Keep going that way. So, any particular moment back in the days when you were, struggling days, you were hopping on from jewelry to construction to music, and now into the luxury living or designing your creative side into homes. So any particular time or moment when you felt like giving up? Shahroze, it's not happening. You got to do something else.
Yeah, actually, I think it happens in every single moment that you go through, especially when you have your own business and you have that mindset. Even through music, it was almost like, just give it up. There's no point. And then I moved on to jewelry, and then it was like, give it up, there's no point. Then you move on to something else. But there's one thing that happens where you sort of like have to get fixated on something, And so I got to a point where I was like, starting off in construction and then ending, my sort of like difficult mindset to like get fixated on something, ended in construction as well. So it sort of came full circle at the end of the day, right? And so the difficulty when it comes to like getting fixated on something or jumping from one thing to another, I think it's normal in entrepreneurship. And the difficulty that comes with it is just, you just have to sort of like understand that no matter what you do, it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and you have to keep growing with the change. Like,
absolutely.
You cannot end up having a comfort zone. That's where the entrepreneurs end, right?
In my opinion, like when you live life, your heartbeat is up and down, up and down. As soon as it flatlines, so.
Rightly said.
Yeah.
So before going to the break, a quick one. So who has really inspired you in your early times or even now?
My inspirations? Inspirations is actually something interesting. I've always kept my religion as inspiration to me, and like and in my opinion, like there's a lot of inspiring things that people that around you do, right? For me, earlier on, I had a lot of musical inspiration. I had a lot of artists that I was inspired by, and then when I got into jewelry, I had a few jewelry artists that I was inspired by. Now I have now I have architects that I get inspired by, interior designers that I get inspired by. So I think my inspirations are almost endless, but to be very honest, it's almost been something that I've sort of done myself. I think the inspirations are just there to inspire, not to really create and make me who I am. So for me, my inspirations are just visual, and I don't really want to create a character out of those inspirations. So that's my main thing.
That's a very creative answer.
Thank you.
Like I'm talking to a film director or something. Okay. Now, Shahroze, what's the story behind Saiba?
So Saiba is
first. How did you come up with this name?
With the name. So it's basically a nickname that I had for my sister. Okay. My sister basically had passed away in 2018, and we used to always like her nickname was. I used to call her Saiba. Like her name was Rabab, so I used to call her Rabab Saiba. And so when she passed away, it was almost like immediate, where I was like, no matter what I do, it has to be under that signature.
Yeah.
So even when I had my jewelry business, I had it under Saiba. So it used to be called Saiba Collections. And so when that ended, then I moved into a full-time into construction and building homes and interiors. And so from there, I just, continued that name, Saiba Homes.
That's such a thoughtful thing to do, and
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry about that. Was your older sister or younger?
Younger sister, she was 18 when she passed away. 18 when she passed away.
I'm so sorry about that. But that's such a beautiful thought. I'm glad I asked you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You need to know the emotional side of the things. You never know.
Absolutely.
You cannot. I just thought of asking you. I never.
You never. Yeah, you never really.
Not ask you even offline. So I think it had to happen this way. Thank you so much. Stay with us. With your permission, I'll be taking a quick break.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We are exploring a wonderful young leader, Mr. Shahroze, and I just touched his beautiful emotional side as well behind the name of his venture, Saiba Homes. We'll be taking a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be coming back exploring more things about this wonderful guy. Till then, I'll be waiting for you. Take care. Welcome back to the journey with Ammar Sheikh. Before going to the break, we were exploring a wonderful, creative guy, Mr. Shahroze, and I'll not waste a further time and I'll ask him other questions. Shahroze, how was the break? You okay?
I'm good.
I'm loving the chatting, even off the camera, and I want the audiences to know more about you, sir.
Absolutely.
So we have just structured in two halves.
Yep.
And the first half was knowing to know about your background and stuff. And now I would ask you what are you currently doing? How's the market doing overall, economic times and whatnot? And then in the last half would be about the impact you have caused and what are your contributions towards the society per se.
Absolutely.
So what do you consider has been your proudest achievement or moment so far?
Honestly, his proudest achievement would 110% be building a company from scratch to where it is now. When you're looking at doing something yourself, I feel like every monument you hit, it's almost like that's the biggest achievement.
Yeah.
So when I started the business, that was an achievement, right? And then when business picked up, that was another achievement.
Yeah.
And then when it grew into something else, it's like every step is always an achievement. But I think the biggest achievement to date is probably the fact that I have actually created something which I don't think anyone in Canada probably has at the age that I'm at. Creating a business which has the potential to become a multi-million-dollar business is something that I think a lot of people strive to do but don't know how to do. Especially even with me, I didn't know how to do it. It just happens.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost kismat ki baat hai at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And what God presents to you and what He gives to you and everything. And I think that would be the biggest achievement: creating something over so many years and trying to figure out what to create and have finally found the footing to actually create it and build it. And now it's come to a point where it's now growing.
True.
Right?
I think when your intentions are right, you get your true callings out.
Yeah,
I think that's how it is. And
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing you cannot really design.
Yeah.
There is, some supreme power which is like directing your show.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. So, Shahroze, I know you're a busy guy. So what keeps you or motivated even now?
100% it's my family. I'm like your family is always something that you strive to keep happy. One, but two, you want to provide, right? I think putting pressure on myself in terms of being a provider, not just for my family but other people in society, has also kept me motivated. Having a time in your life or having the understanding in your life where you're like when you're an entrepreneur or when you have a business, it's not just you.
Yeah.
Right? It's also you providing for other people.
True.
Right? And being in a position where I can, help other people create risk for themselves or create money for themselves and wealth for themselves is a position where I honestly, I feel like I'm blessed in being, where
True.
instead of just constantly looking at yourself and being like, oh, this is what's pushing me and it's just a me.
Yeah.
Almost, it's, for me, it's always been like my family and then what other people
Associate
myself to, you know?
That's a wonderful answer.
So that's basically what
Sure,
it is.
since you're in the business, you are in the, you know, you're in the Canadian economy. So how do you see the, like, I see a lot of turbulence in this time. So what's your comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's difficult, especially for builders and especially for people that are trying to buy homes, and unfortunately people that purchased homes in peak time.
Yeah.
Right. It was, unfortunately, it's been very difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of people have lost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and so you know, at this time, it's almost like what do we do at this point?
Yeah.
In especially with Canadian politics and the way that it's going, it's almost like we all feel hopeless, right? But the one thing that I always keep in mind is that there's always going to be a valley, right? And there's always going to be mountains,
Yeah.
right? And so when you're in a valley, now you got to work hard and climb that mountain
Yeah.
to get back to where you were, to get back even higher. And so the market where it sits right now, unfortunately, it isn't the greatest. It's very difficult. Business has been difficult. But I always say that it creates an opportunity for other people to sort of push the limit and push the boundary as to now you have to really become creative and build your business, right? You have to really come out of your shell and sort of figure out, okay, how do I make money now?
Yeah.
And so for people that are, you know, in the housing business or housing industry, you have to sort of progress in a different way.
True.
And for me, it's almost like niching myself out to something other than just a regular market.
Yeah.
Right.
And having your creative side, I'm sure that helps.
Oh,
you
it helped.
right?
Trust me, it helped a lot.
Yeah,
it helped a lot.
Sure. So I'll move towards the most integral, important part of the show, which is the idea of the show is asking our guest about how are they contributing to the society.
Yeah. So Saiba Homes, especially with the way that we work, is we always try to create spaces and create areas where we can always give a life of luxury to even the people that aren't able to afford luxury. When people look at luxury, they always seem to associate it with, you know, those California homes.
Yeah.
Like those, you know, $58 million homes, or, you know what I mean? And nowadays you look at the Canadian market, well, especially in 2022, a $2 million home didn't look like anything.
True.
Really.
True.
Right? And, you know, I feel like with me having the ability to create spaces for people that aren't able to actually afford the super high-end luxury that they think that they can't afford, creating that space for them is something that I really love doing. And I feel like it is giving back to the community in a way where your house is something that you live in and you dream of being comfortable in and loving forever. And no matter how many houses you move into or move out of. And being happy with your space and being happy with where you're living and being comfortable with it is, I think, something that really is emotionally and mentally fixating. Yeah. Because when you're unhappy in your space, you're unhappy outside of your space.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, giving that mental comfort for people and creating the space for them that they enjoy and love is something that I love sort of seeing, especially when we finish a project. Yeah. You know, when we finish a project and somebody looks at us and like, oh my God, I love my space. It honestly makes me happy. It makes the team happy. It's a different feeling. Yeah. And then also having the ability to provide other people that have a vision, right, and that have a creative side, and giving them the ability to be creative. Yeah. That's something I love. I love, you know, being able to provide for people. Wonderful. And giving them the space to do that.
Any particular projects or initiatives you're working on or you're actively participating in?
Yeah, so right now we're actually looking at pieces of land to actually acquire and start building. But something that was really interesting that came to my desk, I think, a year and a half ago, is the Gibson Schools in Hamilton. It's really interesting because it was a primary or a secondary school back in the 1980s, and they basically, it's been shut down for quite a while, and it was acquired by an architect, and we basically started, we were privileged enough to be able to sort of look at the project, and basically we're creating units that are 16-foot tall ceilings, and they're condo units in an old 1980s school.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really interesting.
Yeah.
We've finalized the design on it. Hopefully we can get that boat going, but let's see what happens, inshallah.
Yeah, all the best with that.
Thank you so much.
And I'll just take your hook off and I'll make it easy for you.
Yeah.
A quick rounders for you. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Stop stressing. Stop stressing. I think the biggest thing for me back in the day, and I think even for a lot of people now, is the amount of stress that we put on ourselves, and the amount of stress I used to put on myself. Everything's written.
Yeah.
Everything's written, and once I understood that, I literally stopped stressing.
Right.
If financial stress is gone, obviously you feel it from here and there, but then it's like you just loop back into it, and you're just like, it's gonna happen. It is what it is,
Yeah,
right?
I think when the maturity hits in, you understand what's the real game of life. Right?
Exactly. So for me, the main thing would be like stop stressing.
There's no point of that.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, like to be remembered. I think I'm too young to be in a position like that. But honestly, I think just somebody that is honest, that is loving, is caring, is if I want my friends to remember me as somebody that has always been there for them. I want my people around me to always remember me as somebody that they've always been comforted by, and be comfortable in their presence by. I think it's just being somebody that everybody sort of remembers me in the best way that they can. That in my opinion, that fame, all that type of stuff, there's no point of it. And just being remembered as somebody that in a positive light with anybody that remembers me is basically what 100%. That's what I would want to be remembered with.
Okay, Shahroze, we're moving towards our final round, and I would just request you if you have something to say to our young viewers, the people who are aspiring to become somebody over here. Please.
Yeah, absolutely. So to everybody that is wanting to achieve something, or something that somebody wants to do in their life, I think follow what you are passionate about and create something that follows your passion. If you're not passionate about something, it's going to be very difficult to create something out of that. And dream high. Dream very, very high. And because when you shoot for the moon, you land in the stars. And it's very true, because when you shoot very high, you'll eventually get somewhere close by. That's something that I think everybody should follow, and that all the viewers and everybody that has children, or anybody that's in a position where they're trying to grow themselves or grow a business, always aspire to do the best you can and dream the highest you can.
Excellent. Yeah, shooting the moon, man. That was deep. Thank you so much, Shahroze. It was absolutely a pleasure having you over here, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, we had a wonderful conversation with none other than Mr. Shahroze Arshad, the man behind Saiba Homes, and now we know the story behind Saiba as well, which is very, very emotional, very sweet, and that really tells about what a man he is. I had some great learning, some great understanding of the topic, and I'm sure if you have gotten something from him, is about how to look forward, don't stress much, and if you shoot this moon, you will end up reaching the stars. So that's the takeaway of the episode. We'll be coming back with another episode with another inspiring story. Till then, take care of yourselves. I'll be signing off. You were watching The Journey with Ammar Sheikh.